Welcome guys to something that I haven't done in some while. Many of you may remember I started the Resonant Podcast a few months ago, and episode 1 and 2 came out, but episode 3 has taken some time, but it is finally here, and this is a highlight bit from it where we go in and talk about Mordhau, and basically how long is this game actually going to survive in the state it's in, and what can the developers do to really give it more longevity in the future. It's an hour-long podcast, but there's just a 10-15 minute segment here where we talk about some stuff about Mordhau. But if you want to go and listen to the full thing, make sure you go and type in the Resonant Podcast to your favourite podcasting source. So if it's iTunes, Spotify, or so on, it is, once again, the Resonant Podcast. Let's talk about, because we haven't actually done a podcast since it was released, but we played it quite a bit. Well, let's talk about a bit about Mordhau. And, in the end, let's not talk about the clan stuff, but let's talk about the game itself. What sort of put you away from the game itself?
I haven't played the game since the new update, and if I'm being brutally honest, the reason I don't play the game is because I don't have anyone decent to play with. Because the clan was a shit show. No offense to anyone in the clan, there were a lot of nice people in there, but the leadership was questionable. And it meant that actually playing Mordhau was not as fun as it should have been.
But in terms of, so give context to people that are listening to this. When Mordhau came out, both James and Nathan and we played it quite a lot, and it was really good. But in terms of the game itself, was there anything that sort of moved you away from it? Was it? I mean, because I feel like it can get a bit of samey.
Yeah, I think the main problem with it is the fact that they, it's both a gift and a curse, really. They focused on a medieval combat game, and the combat is sublime. It's really quite good. And, the different types of weapons that you can use and the different play styles you can have, it's really fun to play. But the issue just is, there's a set amount of maps, there's a set amount of game modes. You eventually, sort of run out of different ways to play. You just sort of, you're playing on the same map over and over again on the same game mode, and it just sort of, there's only two sides to, for example, front lines. You can only play front lines on each map so many times. There's only two sides. The map doesn't change every time you get on there, so it becomes just a bit, as you say, it's a bit samey. It's a bit meh after a while.
Nathan, I'm waiting for your input here.
Sorry, I was breathing.
Sorry, I was breathing.
I can't talk and breathe at the same time, it's too hard.
Okay.
No, I really like Mordhau. I've not stopped playing it for a reason, I just haven't got around to playing it again since I got back. And I am going to start playing it again, just for fun, really.
Yeah, I'm interested to see, because you mentioned, Jacob, that there was a new update that buffed archers, and as an archer, that intrigues me.
But yeah, as I said, the new update that just came out, so recurve bows are pretty powerful now. All the bows were sort of buffed / debuffed in different ways, because it was a massive balancing update. So the long bow, it takes it longer to reload now, which makes sense for a long bow, but each shot goes faster, the arrow goes faster, and does a bit more damage. And with the recurve bow, I think they haven't changed the reload speed of it, but once again, I think it does a bit more damage, and also when you pull back the bow, you also sprint for a little second. So if you're pulling it back and you're in a firefight with another archer, you'll pull it back and you can dodge to the side quickly and then loose.
I like that because
otherwise you just pull it back and slow.
Yeah, I did use the recurve bow to try and be more agile. I could fire even because I quite often got quite close with people in melee. With my bow, and the fact that I could fire fast and move around a lot was really quite useful. So if they've made that even better for the recurve bow, that's going to be really quite fun to play with.
Yeah, I do feel like they have really distinguished along the longbow and the recurve bow, because before they had their differences. The longbow did more damage, but it took longer to reload. It was a bit more accurate. And the recurve bow didn't do as much damage, but it was a bit quicker. But now they've really distinguished those two bows. So now the longbow does more damage. It does a big difference. Well, not the difference where it's OP, but you can tell the difference between the damage in the longbow and the recurve bow now.
Yeah.
But you can also tell the damage between the reload speeds of both the bows. So now there's a reason to pick one over the other rather than before. I feel like there was differences, but it wasn't okay, I'll pick this for this situation. They were sort of interchangeable sometimes.
Yeah, you could get away with having both of them in sort of whatever situation you were in.
Also, they've added an immorta. which is quite interesting because, as you know, the catapult was the
catapults.
ultimate team killing
It was a
weapon.
bit controversial at times, yeah.
Mordhau takes a catapult and multiplies that by about 50.
Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Yeah, it's
So-
on one of the new maps, but it's not in a very good position, so you can't really actually use it that well.
What are the features of the mortar? Can you move it around? How fast does it fire? What sort of?
So, from what I can see so far, it's in one implanted place, a bit like a ballista.
Right.
But you get on it and you can see like a little arc of fire where it's going to go with like dots. And then you fire and it's got it's like a high explosive shell. So it would do like a lot of splash damage sort of thing.
Right.
It's not a really long reload time, to be fair. But it is very, very vulnerable because you're just sitting in one place. And where like a ballista, you're actually behind something. The mortar is just like a thing on the ground, so it doesn't even give you any cover itself.
So you can't move it. It's a static sort of defensive object.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Okay. I kind of like that. Because it makes it
It-
sort of a strategic location on the
Yeah,
map.
it kind of.
If you're
it's not
attacking
too
into that
OP, is it?
position, you're going to want to focus people on the mortar
Yeah.
because it's doing damage to your team. But then you have to juggle, obviously, the fact that if you focus too hard on the mortar, then your opponents are going to manage to push you back everywhere else. So that seems... I like how they've done that. Obviously, I have to see for myself the balance of the weapon, but...
I definitely think it would work better on a different map to the map they put it on, because the new Crossroad map is more of a King of the Hill map where both sides have the same. They start in the first base, which has like 10 horses, so you can get on horses, or you can spawn a bit closer, right next to a ruined fort in the middle where there is the mortar there. But so it's like a King of the Hill fighting over it, but the mortar's in a position where it's literally firing at nothing. So I think that they might my speculation is either it's sort of just a test for an actual siege map, which would make sense, or they're planning on adding in more than 2 teams, because the more sort of faces outwards into the distance where the spawns actually aren't. So
I mean,
maybe they could add more teams.
Both of those things I feel would work. I mean, the map Crossroads sort of indicates, it's 2 roads crossing. They could come from 4 different directions realistically, so they might end up adding more teams to that map. But again, as
plus
you say,
it is
the
a King of the
siege-
Hill thing. So
Yeah, the siege idea, testing it out for the siege makes sense.
Yeah.
Because obviously you don't want to put loads of like siege equipment on that game mode and then they're just fucking overpowered and no one wants to play it. So it'll just ruin
This is true.
Because
Also,
it'll be
siege mode-
quite a big thing, won't it, when siege mode comes out?
siege mode
buzzing.
I want to say it's 100% confirmed, but the reason I don't want to say really 100% because the devs haven't actually technically confirmed it. But the one thing in the first trailer, you can see guys on the walls and then the catapult hitting the walls and stuff. But the other reason is Chicken in the clan sent me a DM the other day, and he'd gone into the files, and I've not actually done this myself, so I'm just trusting him that this is actually a thing because I'm going to check afterwards. You go into the files and there's actually files for siege modes, so it looks like the devs have already started working on it. So
Yeah.
that better.
I mean,
be
it
coming
would
in
it
soon.
would be a missed trick if they didn't
I'd be shocked
put a
if they
siege
didn't.
mode in. Because it will be quite a huge mode.
It'll be ridiculously popular.
And there isn't
I'm really,
a mode,
really looking
there
forward to
isn't
it.
a mode a map on Frontline that doesn't indicate a siege mode. I mean, Grad, of course, is a castle that's been ruined.
Yeah.
And I said this in one of my other videos. Camp itself has a castle in the distance. So, I mean, there's massive trebuchets in the red base, but why would there be trebuchets if they were just attacking a little fort? At the moment.
And
But
I
there's a
mean,
big castle in the
Mountain Peak-
blue place's distance.
Yeah,
so-
Mountain Peak, the spawn of, is it Red Team that's defending? Is
a castle.
literally the front of a castle.
Yeah.
And the final bits of, if Blues win that, which they mostly do, the final bits of that is them battering down the doors. But what if, instead of it finishing there, it actually went on to them now fighting in the corridors and stuff in the castle? So I think they're indicating strongly towards there being a siege mode, and I bloody well hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
I
in the
think it's
same
going to be
boat there.
awesome.
I'm just going to pour myself some more mead.
Boat.
Got my big bottle of mead. I went to the Royal Armies yesterday.
Oh yes.
Oh, did you?
Awesome. Yeah. Mead is nice but incredibly sickly. Jesus Christ. Also, modding in Mordhau hopefully should be coming. I don't know if it'll become this year, maybe just after this year.
Yeah,
But
I mean, it's one of those games that, modding could be cool, but I don't think it's a main feature of a game like this, because it's quite a well-polished game. So
they just need to do something to keep it alive, though, and I'm not 100% sure what they can do, because it is that type of game that will die if something isn't done in the next year, that keeps updating to keep people coming back.
Yeah, they
that
need
same
to
type of game.
Essentially just keep making more maps, making new ways to play the game. I mean, no game lasts forever. Obviously, this game will die
Except for Mountain
eventually.
Blade.
There's only so much you can. I mean, Mountain Blade's dead. There's only so much you can do with a game before people go, I'm bored of this now. So you can add more maps, you can add more game modes, you could add different types of weapons, whatever you want. But at the end of the day, you're going to run out of things to be able to do. The maps you introduce, the brand new maps that you make will be similar to other maps, and so people go, nah, there's nothing fresh about this map. So it will die eventually, but it would be nice if it stuck around for a little bit, because it is genuinely a really well made game.
Yeah, well, funny you should say that. Mountain Blade seems to be the only game that hasn't died. Well, only game like this game that hasn't died yet. And I know a lot of people will be saying it's not like Mordhau. Well, it's not in terms of its mechanics, but in terms of the community that it's got and the sort of multiplayer nature of it. Somehow Mountain Blade still has multiple 200 player battles, like line battles and stuff, every single night of the week. And I don't know why that's still survived. And I think Mordhau modding could work, but obviously at the same time they would have to bring out cool big mods that completely change it. But I really think the main thing that's going to keep this game alive is to make it actually accessible to a goddamn community. Because, I mean, both of trying to mod an admin on the servers, they don't make it easy at all.
The servers are a bit lacking in their features for hosting one. There's no really major admin commands that you can do to alter the server in any way. It's very basic functionality. I think adding something like that just so you can sort of customize the servers slightly would be quite
map
big.
Making as well would be a massive thing.
Yeah. Getting other people to make maps and add maps would be useful, because some people can come up with some crazy shit.
I mean, there's a map that was just added in the new update called Funland, which is sort of like a secret map that is obviously made by someone that just wanted to have a bit of fun, and I guess they added it in. It might have been a developer that was just messing about. But it's like an assault course sort of thing, and there's horses flying around in the air and levers, you can pull ships to go flying off into the distance and things like that. But the whole thing's there's seesaws that you have to run over and climb up ladders and then jump to another ladder or you'll fall to your death. So it does look like that they're heading that way for custom maps.
Yeah, which would be nice,
that, to be honest.
But yeah, in total, I just I really like the game, but I just unfortunately I don't see it lasting for a while, a long time. Or Chivalry did last for a long time, but I mean in terms of being a mainstream game, because at the moment it is it has the players to be a mainstream game, but in terms of anything more than a small community, they're gonna have to do something quite impressive to try and keep it going.
Yeah, well, who knows, they might end up making an esports scene for it.
Well, there's already tournaments going on at the moment, so who knows.
I mean,
a Mordhau esports would be interesting, but they need to fix the balance of maps at some point.
Yeah, there's still work to do, but there's plenty of esports games out now that are absolutely horrendous and are still successful esports games. So doesn't take much.